Good evening. We will call to order the Town of Lake Lure Marine Commission regular meeting Tuesday, December the 12th at 4 p.m. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, none being presented, I make a motion we adopt the agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will then move on to the Lake Advisory Board Annual Report. If you will remember, we do the board reports at the town council meeting this year, at this time every year, but we do the LAB at the Marine Commission. So who will be giving that? And yes, we're so delighted that you're here.
I actually expected to be a little bit further down on the agenda, but that's okay.
Uh-oh, were you just writing it? Were you going to just write it?
Yeah, I was just taking notes right now.
That reminds
Yeah.
me when I was in school.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council people, audience. Glad there's not a whole lot of people here. I'm Kathy Hatfield, and I'm this year's chair of the town's 2023 Lake Advisory Board. This year, the board is composed of the same people we had last year, but in slightly different roles. And we have a fantastic group of people, and they represent all kinds of different interests in the town. We've got the marina manager and resident of the resort. We've got the manager of Lake Lure Tours and the beach in the marina area. We've got an owner of a lake activities enterprise who's also a resident and a member of one of our ever-increasing number of young families in the community. We've got a Lake Lure resident who is part of the local emergency preparedness team and also part of the Lakefront Homeowners Association. We've got another resident fisherman and advocate who's fully committed to monitoring, protecting, and sustaining the lake's fisheries and ecosystem. We've got another Lake Lure resident who is the owner of a business that has nothing whatsoever to do with the lake. And then lastly, we've got our last person is a Lake Lure resident who is part of the very small percentage of our constituency that has absolutely nothing to do with any of those things that I said just before us. That would be me. This board, I said, is the same one that we had last year and that put so much work into making the changes on the lake use agreement. And this year, we've spent a considerable amount of time tweaking some of those changes and updating them and responding to the plethora of complaints that we got about them, and the plethora of compliments. So, I mean, it was pretty well divided. But a couple of the things that we did this year was following a lot of complaints from the local fishermen regarding not only the fact that we had taken out the fishing permits, but that the daily permits were so difficult to get ahead of time. We worked with the Parks, Rec, and Lake Division, or Department, and put together a plan to make that easier for them, so that Dana and Dean and company put in a lockbox so that the people could call in and get the permits ahead of time. And that made a lot of people happy, but it didn't really resolve the overall problem of the fishing permits not being available. So later in the year, we voted to recommend that we add back in for 2024 the seasonal permits, or the seasonal fishing permits, just from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Whoops, other way around. 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. During the peak period, and then any time when we're not in peak season. And it was pretty much the consensus of the board that having this access or to the lake during those periods wouldn't contribute to congestion. I'm sorry, I'm talking too fast. Congestion, and so we're gonna keep an eye on that, but it seemed to solve that problem. Another thing we found was that the resident and non-resident motorized stickers needed to have a different numbering scheme this year because it was difficult for us with this new MOLO system, and I'll get into that in a minute. The new MOLO permitting system, it was difficult for us to keep track of the AM stickers, which ones were resident and which ones were non-resident. And so for next year, we've separated those so that we can keep a better count. The new permitting process uncovered several vessels that had previously been permitted, which should not have been. And although that made some people mad, it actually, we actually managed to keep those boats out of the lake now, some that had over 300 horsepower, some that were too long, some that were too heavy. But that permitting process also identified the need for some refinement in some of the definitions, which we ended up changing last September for 2024. Our biggest change for 2023 lake use agreements was the removal of the requirement for non-motorized permits. It was determined that this requirement placed an undue financial hardship on residents, and it was extremely difficult for the law enforcement personnel to enforce. So we recommended that, and you approved it being removed from the lure for 2024. The board has left open the option to revisit the removal because there is some speculation that we could have a much higher influx of those types of vessels, and it could cause a problem. So we want to be able to look at that for next year. And speaking of next year, that's one of the things we're going to be looking at. Let's skip ahead to that one. Oh, no, I won't. Never mind. Some of the other accomplishments for 2023, Dave Lusk and Gary Hassenfuss, I'm glad he's not here because I always mispronounce his name. They worked with the members of the Parks, Rec, and Lake Division and Public Works to collect and place over 100 Christmas trees into the lake bed for fish habitats. This project is beneficial to both the anglers and the fish population. This year, several businesses have pledged to contribute excess trees, and residents may drop off live trees that contain no lights or decorations behind the old ABC store. We're probably going to discourage people from putting them at the convenience center this year because last year, someone came and collected them on behalf of the town last year. So we lost quite a few trees last year in probably someone's private pond. In May, Gary Hassenfuss arranged for and oversaw the stocking of 20,000 to 30,000, depending on which count you used, threadfin shad for feeder fish for the lake. He also coordinated, the really big thing is he coordinated the 2023 fish study conducted by the Southeastern Pond Management. Following the publication of the study, he wrote an article for The Breeze. He worked with Laura to socialize it on the town's website and on social media platforms. And then with Mayor and Dave Diorio and Laura Creege's coordination, they did a fishing forum here at Town Council for interested parties. There weren't a lot of interested parties, but the place looked really good. And hopefully next year, if we do something similar, that there'll be some more people here. Compliance with the changes on the lake use regulation was way up thanks to education, socialization, and added enforcement. During a 5-month period, the police department logged 324 patrol hours, 1,184 permit checks, 357 contacts, and 51 safety checks. These resulted in the issuance of 37 warnings and 31 citations. Not surprisingly, the number of warnings and citations declined significantly as the season went on, likely due to the Marine Commission support of the enforcement efforts of of the police department and putting teeth into what they were doing. Thank you very much for that. So for 2024, we want to take a look at, we've got a big slate for 2024. And first thing is, we'd like to take a look at the commercial model for the boat permits and see if it's balanced correctly. We've had a bunch of new businesses come into town. We've had some of the existing businesses want to expand or change their fleets around. And we've got room in some parts of the model and no room in other parts, and so we want to maybe swap some of those around. In addition, we're going to review the 2006 lake use study with an eye toward fine-tuning the type and number of motorized vessels, motorized vessel permits that are currently issued. We seem to, we had kind of hit the limit this year with the motorized vessel permits, and we want to see what we can do to shift that around a little bit. We think that the fishing permits are going to help that out, that people will buy fishing permits rather than the annual, seasonal permits. We changed the word. So we think that that's going to help with the shift. And with the new, now that the data is up to date in the MOLO program, which was just a nightmare, by the way. Now that the data is up to date, we're going to have better numbers for next year and be able to put our finger right on where everything stands. Another contentious issue, now we tabled this from 2023, is to review the use and placement of the no-wake buoys around the lake. We put that off for 2023 because there had been so many changes to the lure or to the lake use regulations that we wanted to get those implemented and get the dust to settle from all of that before we started, doing something that some people are going to like, other people are probably not. But as you discussed last year with Mark's report, there are around 100 buoys out there on a 800 or a 732 acre lake. That's a lot. And there's some places where it looks like a picket fence going down the side. So we need to take a look at that. We also need to evaluate the impact of the 2023 changes to the lake use regulations, specifically the non-motorized permits, as I said. We have to consider, are the number of vessels going to increase substantially and contribute to congestion, navigation? Are they going to be crisscrossing the lake all over the place because they don't know the rules? They don't have to take the boater safety class. And a real concern is that slop chute area outside by the gazebo, where we've got the motorized vessels, and then we're going to have an influx of non-motorized vessels there in that area. And something that had been mentioned and might be considered if we have a problem is to redirect the non-motorized to come in from the come in from the river, and maybe put a launch over on the backside of Morris Park, so that the motorized is coming in from behind the old ABC store, and the non-motorized is coming in from another spot where they hit the main channel of the lake. That was just something that, was a flag that was flown up the flagpole, and we will probably be discussing. Since COVID, the annual boat tours for the LAB members that were hosted by the Parks and Rec Division or Department had ceased. We're going to resume those and possibly even try to encourage some of the LAB members to go out with Dean and Dana. Well, Dean won't be around for very much longer, but to go out on some of their regular patrols just to see how it works and what they have to do, what they have to put up with. We are going to keep an eye on the need for the gate arm at the Washburn ramp. That was delayed. With the high compliance for the permitting this year, it was kind of determined that perhaps that wasn't necessary, and so it was put on the back burner. and we're just gonna keep an eye on it and see if that's something we wanna revisit. The communications with the police department this year, between the board and the police department, have been stellar, and we wanna make sure that we keep that going, especially regarding enforcement. And there's some issues that have been raised about portable lake structures, the mats, the inflatable bounce houses and stuff that people are putting out and not necessarily putting within 30 feet of the shoreline. And so we've been getting some feedback on those and talking to the police department about that. We want to work with the Parks, Rec, and Lake Department to implement a Spanish language version of the boater safety course. That was something that was recommended by the folks at the Washburn Marina, and we think it's a pretty darn good idea. And we also want to look at the concession agreement with Lake Lure Tours. And the reason for that is the lake is still up, the tour boats have been pulled, which means the marina is closed and people can't get gas. And so perhaps take a look at that and speak to them. The concession agreement currently says that the marina is only to be staffed and open and staffed when the tour boats are operating. So once they pulled the tour boats, now we didn't staff that marina building. And so I think we need to take a look at that and see what we can do about perhaps having them established maybe twice weekly, once on a weekday and one, a few hours on the weekend when the marina is actually staffed, so that people can come get gas even though the tour boats are gone, but the lake is still up. So that was something that came up recently, and we were all kind of very surprised. So that's what we're thinking about for 2024. I'd like to, along with Jim, and who's the vice chair of the board, I'd like to thank all the board members for all the hard work that they did this year. But I'd also like to point out a couple of special things. We definitely want to thank all the officers from the police department who were very vigilant this year, put out a lot more hours, took a lot more time, and not only worked on enforcement, but worked on education too for the people who were out there. And they did a really great job. It seemed to result in a lot less congestion and a higher degree of safety, all of their efforts. Specifically, Tyler Dills, who took it upon himself to, well, I can't say that maybe he wasn't strong-armed into it, but took it upon himself to put together a training program for all of the officers, made sure that they were all very well versed in the changes to the lake use regulations. And he also managed the statistics along with Kat's assistance, managed the statistics and the reporting to the board every month of what their activities were. Of his own volition, that I know, he also assisted Parks, Rec, and Lake with doing some data input for that new MOLO permitting system. We'd also like to thank the Parks, Rec, and Lake Department. Dean and Dana have been invaluable, and their help is always appreciated and their input is fantastic. We couldn't function at all without them. But then there's Corby. And Corby absolutely just went above and beyond this year. This new permitting system and the boater's licensing system, she handled it like a champ. The permitting system was a nightmare to get started. And I helped out quite a bit in the very beginning, and I can attest that the time it took to input some of this data was up to 30 minutes per permit. And she always had a line out the door, and people were yelling, and people were grumpy, and people were mad, and she always had a smile on her face, and she really bent over backwards on customer service and trying to make people happy. And she did it with humor, patience, and kindness. And so many times I would have wanted to just reach across the desk and slap somebody upside the head, and she never did that, as far as I know. And she is really to be commended for the hard work that she did, putting this whole system together for this year. And hopefully now that all the data is in, next year it will go much better. And people will be happier campers. I believe that's all. Do you have any questions?
Just one, and first of all, I would like to compliment your board on not just what a good job they've done with these lake use regulations, but being so adaptive, to obviously things that needed to be changed. Sometimes when things are changed, you don't know what the effect's gonna be or the outcome, so I think y'all have done a great job in listening to the community, so.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that, and also just the collaboration between you and the Parks and Recs Department, that's so necessary. Curious, do you, as we get into this time of year, do you all have any vacancies on the board that are coming up? Are there openings?
There are 3 positions that are at their term. I believe that those 3 people have all put in applications to re-up.
Okay.
But I believe there's other applications that are out there as
Okay,
well.
Perfect. All right, thank you so much. Anything else from
No.
anybody?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for what you've done.
I know it
Yes.
was a lot.
It was a huge amount of work, it truly was, we appreciate that so much, and, when we worked for the past 2 years on changing all the structure of the advisory boards, this was certainly what we envisioned, that, at the end of the year, there'd not only be a recap of what had happened, what had been accomplished by the board in the next year, but also a sense of what your mission was for the next year. So this is exactly what we were hoping for, so thank you all so much for that. We appreciate that. We'll move to item number 4, which is our public hearing regarding resolution number 23-12-12, amending the lake use regulations. Staff report. Dana.
So as far as the lake use regulations go, the Lake Advisory Board has recommended that 4 updates be made to the regulations. And so the first update can be found on page 8 of the regulations. And this is in letter L, and it's just clarifying that you only have to submit your specification sheet 1 time for the vessel. You don't have to keep submitting that every year.
That'll go over well.
It
that's
should.
For
It should
everybody
help.
concerned.
The second update can be found on page 9, under letter Q. And this is just an update allowing boat permits to be transferred from one vessel to another, as long as the old permits are turned in to the Parks, Rec, and Lake office. The third update can be found on page 14, and that's under A. And it's just clarifying that boat operators must carry a digital or hard copy of their boater's license on them while operating the motorized vessel. And then the last update is on page 30, all the way towards the back. That's under the actual civil fines, everything like that. And that's just an update to the verbiage to match the update made on page 14 regarding the proof of the boater's license. And so our recommendation is to adopt the updated lake use regulations.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment? Then we will move on. And are there any questions by the council? If not, is there any discussion?
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 23-12-12, amending the lake use regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then resolution number 23-12-12, amending the lake use regulations, is adopted unanimously. We will then move on to our public comment section. I don't believe anyone is signed up, but if there's anyone who would like to make a public comment, we invite you to approach the rostrum, and you have 3 minutes to share your comments with us. If not, we are delighted that you're here, but we'll move on to the next item, which is our consent agenda. Are there any, is there any question or any discussion about items on the consent agenda? Otherwise, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the consent agenda, comprised of approval of the September 12th, 2023 regular Marine Commission meeting minutes, and B, the adoption of the 2024 Marine Commission meeting schedule is unanimously approved. Having no unfinished business, we will move to the next item, which is our appeal hearings. The first is a request to appeal civil citation number 000066. And Dana, would you like to share with us what you know?
And so Ms. Rosemeyer had received a citation for not having a boat permit on her vessel. She had stated that Ms. Corby Bradley from my office had given her permission to put the boat in her marina slip for the whole weekend without a permit on it. And it does not appear to be the case. You have a signed statement from Ms. Corby Bradley in front of you, stating she did not grant this permission. She simply informed Ms. Rosemeyer of what she would need to bring in for this permitting process. She would need to bring in her old permits and specifications and all the things for the new vessel. And so staff is recommending you either approve or deny.
All right, any questions for Dana on this issue?
So I was down at the marina, this happened over the weekend of the dance festival.
It did.
And I was down there working security and was riding by in a golf cart and came across the truck with the trailer backing down the ramp.
Yeah.
And then I saw the truck and trailer a few minutes later with the gentleman of the marina that owned it, salesman probably. And I just said, hey, FYI, that boat doesn't have stickers on it. It can't go in the lake without stickers on it. And I wasn't specifically saying I was a councilman or that I was just giving him a friendly reminder that, hey, you can't put a boat in the lake without a sticker on it. He said, I think they have everything taken care of. And he had a whole bunch of papers in his hands and stuff, so I said, okay, have a good day, and I drove away. So I just thought I would put that on record, that I did talk to the guy of the company that was responsible for putting
Yeah.
the boat in the lake, so.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the whole situation was. I know they had their old permits, but that was not enough.
Right.
Any other questions?
Oh, Ms. Rosemeyer is
Ms.
actually
Rosemeyer,
here.
please come up. Dana, if you'll just let her. Thank you. And if you could just state your name and your address, please.
Diane Rosemeyer. I am at 163 Trillium Lane in Lake Lure. We are unincorporated Lake Lure. So I am here to appeal the citation, Madam Mayor and Councilman. I'll let you know what happened and the day it happened. On September 12th, we took our boat in. We've moored a boat here since 2020. We took our boat in for a trade-in, and when we were there, for some type of a technical reason, the paperwork wasn't ready for us to sign, and they were gonna deliver the boat on probably the 15th, they said. So I called and talked to Corby, and my husband we were on speakerphone. And there was only one situation that I had to ask permission for, because we couldn't take the sticker off the old boat to put on the new boat, because we weren't going to sign the papers until they delivered the boat. And my problem was, I knew it was gonna be after 5 o'clock, probably on that Friday, maybe even that Saturday. So we let her know what was going on, and that, I couldn't even give serial numbers to get numbers, because we didn't own that boat yet, and we still own the other boat. So I let her know we had nowhere to put it at our house. They were delivering it right to the marina. So I asked her, you know, what the process was. She said we'd have to bring in the old numbers. I said, well, they're on the boat. I can't take them off till we buy the new boat and when it's delivered. I did explain that very thoroughly because I knew the rules. But I said, you know, I promised I would not drive the boat anywhere around the lake. It would go right to our slip. And first thing Monday morning, I would be in with the old number, the old permit to get it. While we were putting the boat in, that's when we were approached by an officer, and I relayed the story to him, and he said, who told you that? And I said, well, I talked to Corby. I talked to her, you know, several times before, you know, getting permits for boats and our kayaks. And I just relayed the story, and he's like, okay, well, if you've gotten permission, you're here, you can do it. He goes, but you have to promise me you won't drive the boat. It'll go right to your slip. We took the boat, went right to the slip. Then 10 days later, I got a citation in the mail. And on it, it said, I talked to Corby, she said that never happened, so here's the citation. You know, I've always tried to follow the rules. I've made sure I've read the rules, I've complied with all of them, and this was a very specific circumstance for a very specific day. And I did receive permission to take the boat to the slip. If there was miscommunication, you know, I apologize for that, but I was very specific about what our situation was. There was nowhere to put that boat, and there was no way to get the number until we signed those papers and took them off the old boat. And I was very surprised when I got the citation in the mail, and like, I think this, we launched the boat on the 15th, got the citation in the mail on the 28th. You know, I thought everything was fine. I feel I acted in good faith to try to follow the rules. I, you know, made sure not to drive that boat. You know, we had that whole weekend, it was beautiful. You know, we just went out there and sat on the boat in our slip. And, you know, so I am, you know, was a little, you know, disappointed about that. And I felt I did act in good faith with, you know, the officer that approached us and when I spoke with Corby. And I feel like if there was some type of a misunderstanding, I don't think it was on the way that I explained it because there was only one scenario.
Thank you for are there any questions? Is anybody?
Yeah, did you get a permit on Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
We were there when they opened.
So the permit went on Monday?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Corby said 10:30 a.m.
On Monday?
It
Oh, okay.
was all finished and squared away, so due diligence definitely is precedent in this case, I think.
What was the fine? How much was the fine?
No one, I have not,
It's
It's
250.
250.
Right?
I didn't see any. Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Dana. So any other discussion or questions for Dana or?
Discussion?
Yep.
So I'm always encouraged by people trying to do the right thing. And I'm convinced you're trying to do the right thing. And I'm personally convinced that there's probably a miscommunication here. So my personal feeling is that perhaps we should meet you halfway here on this with a reduction of the fine.
I think my conversation with the guy driving the truck, the guy delivering your boat, I did tell him you couldn't have the boat on the lake without a permit. And he said, oh, they have everything squared away. So he believed that as well.
Yeah.
And I think the due diligence was there. Again, you've kind of got a little bit of a he said, she said, and a timing issue and but I believe you guys put that boat in the lake and didn't drive it. Because I was there most of the weekend, and that doesn't mean I saw you, but, yeah. I kind of agree with Dave. Maybe we meet you halfway.
Any discussion from Jim or Patrick or questions? All right, do I hear a motion then?
I move that we reduce the citation from $250 to $100 to pay for court costs and move on. $100 citation. I'll
Do you hear a second?
Jim?
Jim, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
settled. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Donna. You're still there.
You got more?
I got it. Yes, we do.
Oh,
We have
do.
another
Yes,
one.
We have more. We do.
can't- you
We do.
can't
We do.
go away.
Sorry.
You can just leave with, can you take their check?
No, you need to go to the office.
It needs to be
Or,
paid to
excuse
Kat.
me, Kat, can you take their check? Kat can take your check. Did you want to give it to her now so you can leave? Is that what you're saying? Okay, that's fine. This is,
Thank you.
this is
We just have a
actually-
few more minutes.
Yeah, we just have a few more minutes and then we'll be done, if that's all right with y'all. All right, we'll move on then to the request to appeal civil citation number, wait, that's the one we just did. Hang on, let me get to the next one. Citation number 000063. Dana?
So Mr. Husnick is requesting to either waive or reduce his fine. He received a $225 fine for operating a non-motorized vessel without a permit. He states he is not from this area and he was unaware of our rules. There are, however, signs at each access point stating that permits are required for non-motorized and motorized vessels. So that was the only information I had on this at the time. So staff recommends either approve or deny.
Okay, so
Is he not here?
He's not here, right?
he's
No,
not here,
I
no.
believe
no,
he
he's
lives
from
in Florida.
Florida.
He's from Florida, so I guess this was just, not being aware of the North Carolina boat operation law. However, he took the course.
I don't know that he took a boater's license course. You don't need that for a
Yeah, not for
non-motorized vessel,
Oh,
but
that's
there
right,
are
non-motorized,
signs.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are multiple signs at
And
every access.
that may be something, as Kathy was talking about before, that we're gonna have to look into.
Yeah,
with
having
people
them,
n- with
having them,
people not having to take that course, because
Yeah.
that was one of the ways that we really ascertained that people knew what the rules were.
Right.
I think,
So-
yeah.
I mean, that one's a little harder because you had to take the course to get a motorized permit.
Right.
Now there's no permit.
Right.
So now how does someone know to take the course? You know, if they don't, you know,
Yeah,
see what I'm
that-
saying?
no,
So
I
it's
do,
it's a
and that's
tougher
what-
nut to crack.
Well, that was what I was
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
something we're gonna have to address moving forward, is the knowledge of what the rules are.
Yeah.
If there are no rules that say you have to know the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Yeah.
I think you,
No,
Right,
it's not.
there's that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So there's no reason for them, since they don't have
Right.
to get a permit, no one's asking the question.
right.
So like Kathy was just mentioning, big sign at the ramp, so.
Yeah,
We
but there's-
do,
yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
And that's been brought up before, that we need signage telling
Well, and
people
there's-
who are coming in from out of town what the
Yeah.
rules
If I go to Florida to do something in a lake, I'm probably gonna make sure I have the right information. If I'm
Yeah.
gonna drive my car, or if I'm gonna go do something somewhere,
Due diligence.
I make sure that I've got the right, that I'm following the rules of that lake.
And we've had a number of people that did not know, or claimed they did not know the rules, and we've held the line with that, and I think we need to be consistent in
Agreed.
2023 to hold the line on that particular regulation, so I would say that we hold the citation.
I'd be in agreement with that too, because we've had this, and as a course of precedent for 2023 season,
Yeah.
we've had this same
Same issue.
citation come up,
Yeah, same
and
issue.
we held our,
Well, if we don't,
position on that for
we
the
don't hold a position on this
regulation.
one this time, then
Right.
we have a
Correct.
difficult time
Yes.
doing it ever. All
Right.
right,
Yep.
so do I hear a motion then?
Yeah, and we'll invite him up for next year, he won't need a permit, so he'll be.
There you go.
That is true.
I make a motion to deny the request to appeal civil citation number 000063.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then citation number 000063 is denied. Thank
Want
you.
me
Is
to
that
read
all
on
you-
to the next one?
You got more?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
I think the fee schedule and all that's next.
Yep, you gonna stay there?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just hang out.
So new business, first item is the 2024 lake use fee schedule, which is on page 55. Dana, do you want to opine for us?
Sure. So the Lake Advisory Board has recommended 2 updates be made to the fee schedule this year. One is the transfer fee. So a boat transfer fee, it's under miscellaneous boat permits. That will be $25. It was previously $10, and it was not, it was more of a replacement fee. And so now they're irreplaceable, you cannot replace it, but you can transfer it for a $25 fee.
All right.
And the second one is for vacation rentals under the commercial. It will be raised from $2,000 to $3,000.
Any
And
questions?
So Dana, these, the old and the new are they contrasted here?
No.
No.
Okay.
they are not.
This is 2024's.
Okay.
yeah.
So I think she said the boat transfer fee was 10, and it's
10,
going to 25, and
25.
it's 2,000 going to 3,000.
Okay.
Then those are showing on this.
Yep. And so our recommendation would be to accept these.
Questions, discussion?
None being presented, I'll make a motion that we adopt the proposed 2024 lake use fee schedule.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the board unanimously approves the 2024 lake use fee schedule. We'll then move on to the 2024 commercial model, which is on page 57. Dana?
Not a whole lot of changes to the commercial model this year, other than the non-motorized coming out of it. The commercial model contains all the information for all the applicants that have applied to be in the model for 2024. And so the first page, really, all the green is just their contact information and all that stuff. And then if you'll turn to the second page. And so the yellow line at the very bottom of it gives the totals for the year in each category. And those can be compared to the 2023 totals that are listed in gray right below it. And so you can see there's not a whole lot of change going on there until you get to the non-motorized. And, since the non-motorized permits will only be required for those that have livery, non-motorized, there are a lot less of those in there this year. The very bottom right gives the total amount of estimated revenue, assuming all the applicants actually purchased all the permits that they requested.
This is kind of interesting how it just really stayed flat.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's excellent. I mean, I think that's a testament to
Because
the
that was a
model.
concern.
Yeah.
That was a concern.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to the model that we have, and, that's pretty good.
Right.
Of course, we're staying on top of that, but the model itself seems like it works.
Yeah, I would say that, a little bit of history, and it's a very positive note. So, we remember about 3 years ago, we had a lot of people that were abusing the commercial model. They were conducting business on the lake, not from commercial property, they were not vacation rentals, and about 3 years ago, we cleaned all that up. Okay, all that went away. Now what we're seeing is established bona fide businesses that have boat captains, they're doing business the right way, they're getting all the required permits, they're abiding by the regulations and doing a great job with it. Those core businesses are starting to expand a little bit, and we're actually seeing a little bit of a reduction in the vacation rentals. And I think that's a positive note. I think the vacation rentals, they're okay, but they don't do as good a job executing rentals as the livery folks. And so the thing that Kathy was bringing up, we're seeing pressure to kind of build on liveries and reduce on vacation rentals, and we need to adjudicate that in the model. But all positive, because both of those, the livery and the VRs, were the biggest problems we had with non-compliance on the lake, and I think that's come down a little bit. So a little bit of history with what's going on with that, and that's one thing you're gonna look at, but yeah, it's very interesting.
Seems like
I
it's
think-
it's just gotten so much tighter.
It has.
It's not,
So much
Yeah, a lot
better
tighter.
defined, yeah.
And it's funny you should bring that up, because that's my next point. So if you'll go to the last page, there is a small box that's disconnected from everything else. It's the lake impact calculator. And so that shows the number of all the categories that we have available in each section. And so we have one thing we would like to address. And so we have 3 additional requests this year for a livery boat. And there is currently no room in the model for an extra livery, but we do have 9 vacation rentals available. And so when we looked at the impact hours for vacation rentals versus livery, it was about, vacation rentals are about half the impact of a livery. So it's pretty much 2 to 1. And so we would recommend we could take 6 of the vacation rentals and convert them into 3 rental livery and allow them into the model. And so that would be our recommendation.
So you would eliminate 6.
We would eliminate
Vacation
6.
rentals, but add 3 livery.
Yes.
A twofer.
Yeah, and still leave 3 open in the model for VRs.
Right,
It
that still-
would.
that still leaves 3 in the model.
It still
of
leaves
the
3 in the
VR
model. It
Yep.
does.
Yep.
And they would only be approved, providing they meet all their mooring requirements and everything else.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
Yeah. And even if we bounced up against that for this year, unintended consequence, we could look at that later on.
Right, I mean, you probably could.
But the trade is really, theoretically anyway, it's neutral on congestion. I mean,
It
it's-
is.
Right, as long, to me, that's the most important thing, is we stay neutral.
Right.
Yeah.
That's-
Congestion.
That's the point of the
Right.
model.
I think it's-
That's the
Yeah,
point of the
and,
model.
yeah,
Yeah.
sustaining business
Yeah,
throughout the
helping
season.
helping deliveries and,
Yep.
I mean,
And you have active applications for those 3.
you have 3 active
We
livery
do.
applications?
They're in the wings waiting, okay.
Yep, they've already submitted their applications, and
Yeah.
I didn't put them in the model because they
They
didn't
didn't
quite
bring
fit
it.
yet. So I just needed that approval.
Gotcha.
Okay. So,
So we need to.
do I hear a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the transfer of 6 vacation rental permits to 3 livery permits in the commercial model for 2024.
Okay, I think we need an approval for the actual commercial model.
To adopt the 2024.
Oh, yeah, you want to just adopt the model, because it's already in there?
Yeah.
It's already
It's
there?
not
Okay.
technically in the model yet, so I needed your
Well, I think
approval.
perhaps
You could do both.
Yeah, I think we need
Right.
to.
Just
Because you're-
combine them,
because you're
combine them,
specific.
you're saying it.
Mm-hmm.
I move that we approve the 2024 commercial model as presented.
Okay,
I'll
Which
second,
includes that change.
second,
and I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Then the 2024 commercial model is approved.
nice job,
Sent it.
folks.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love it when the plan
Thank you,
comes.
Olivia.
I know,
I do too.
I love this thing.
There being no other business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, motion to adjourn presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we stand adjourned. We will not begin until 5 o'clock, even though we're finished a little bit early. But that's the time it's supposed to.